In the last 6 months, I've come to appreciate my emotions and come to focus on that and focusing my attention to cultivate my vibration. And
good words, really good words.
That's been awesome. And I can't thank you enough for that and the changes that are coming and will continue to come. So I see that as like step 3, and the contrast, accepting contrast is step 4.
Step 4 is
being stable in it.
Steady in alignment, steady in the receptive mode, mastering it, which is, as you said, being aware of emotions and knowing when you are and knowing when you're not, and knowing what to do about it, which is what we just talked about just now. That's step 4. And then step 5 is not being mad at yourself when you're in step 1. Step 5 is accepting the perfection. That was the conversation we just had. Accepting the perfection of contrast and not letting it be the reason that I don't like myself. Let's get rid of that hot button once and for all.
Yeah. It's a process.
Yeah.
But I see where it's going, and
Yes.
I'm excited about that.
Yes.
I'm curious about how with society and all of this. So right now I feel like there's a precipitation occurring through teachings like yours where people are becoming conscious of the fact that they do control their own reality, just like I'm one of them.
It's an awakening unlike we've ever seen before.
And it's going to transform things in a big way. A lot of the old structures, I feel it, that are in place are going to fall.
Which is the same thing as saying a whole lot of people are feeling a whole lot better about a whole lot of things.
Right. So there's an evolutionary trajectory to what's going on. And I guess my curiosity is in that, so the contrast helps us to expand. So we've got universal energy, we're expanding, and that's what we're about. And
because the contrast caused you universally, collective consciousnessly, to create a big vortex and sources there with that knowledge projecting that vibration of what you all have created, and more like you are getting in the receptive mode and realizing the perfection of what you've dreamed into place.
And so that's awesome.
Isn't it? But the most awesome part of it is not that life's going to be over here better. The most awesome part of it is that you all get to watch it happen. You all get to be part of it happening. One thought at a time, one dance at a time, one song at a time, one joyful realization at a time.
It's nice.
Yeah.
So as we're going there, as we're going through life as an individual in this mix, seeing that trajectory and wanting to sort of help it, or is there an almost like a universal efficiency?
Well, you're better off to accept that it is underway. It's like when you get in your car, you don't get under the hood and try to pull pulleys and push pistons. You accept that your car doesn't even have some of those now. And so you do what you do. You decide where you're going to go and point it in that direction. You don't try to be the engine that makes it work.
Right.
So what is the satisfaction of having more hands-on? That's what we want to hear from you. Because there is satisfaction in being in the receiving mode and following that impulse. There is satisfaction having your hands in the clay. That is hugely satisfying.
The hands in the clay, that's sort of another aspect of this question, is like I find myself with my hands in the clay a lot, and when your hands are in the clay, well, you get dirty, and there's contrast that arises.
We're going to
from
interrupt
that.
you again just for a moment. Can you hold your place? Can you feel the difference of having your hands in the clay and not tuned in, and having your hands in the clay and tuned in? We're asking you to really put your hands in clay right now, like an artist does. You've got your hands in the clay, and you're saying things to yourself like, I'm not good at this, and I have no idea what I'm even going to make, and this stuff is dirty and sticky, and I've never done anything like this before, and it's going to turn out like really bad, and probably after I make it I won't even fire it, and I'm not going to show it to anybody. And that's hands in the clay. Or there's hands in the clay. Ooh, this feels so good. This clay has wonderful texture. This clay is easy to mold. I can turn this clay into the image that's in my mind. I'm having such a good time molding this clay. This clay is pliable in my hands, and my ideas are turning into reality right before my eyes, and this is such a satisfying experience. That's hands in the clay too.
So there's the inspiration moment where it's like you get this
receptive
idea.
Mode.
You're in the receptive mode, and in comes the idea.
And that happened before you put your hands in the clay. in this context, because the hands in the clay is the action part of it, but the inspiration has come. You're in the receptive mode. The idea came, the desire came. Now more ideas are coming. Where do I get the clay? What kind of clay do I get? What am I going to do? That.
The details, you know.
The delicious details.
The
delicious, never-endingly inspired, more receptive mode. Oh, Abraham, do you mean there is momentum to the receptive mode?
Nice.
Abraham, do you mean that the receptive mode will never peter out, that it will never end, it will never stop being? Yes, it will never end. You get in the receptive mode and it just goes and flows and surprises and delights in your never-ending joyful becoming. Do I ever take my hands out of the clay? No.
You just are receptive with your hands in the clay, or not receptive with your hands in the clay?
Yeah, you got your hands in the clay. You came born with your hands in the clay. Got your hands in the clay. You can like it or not. You can enjoy the molding process, or you cannot enjoy the molding process. But you can't stop sifting through. You can't stop giving birth to desires. You can't stop creating a vortex. And we will never stop responding to your vortex. But you do have a choice about whether you've got your hands in the clay in the receptive mode or your hands in the clay in the not receptive mode. Those are your options. You have a choice of being happy or being miserable. You have those choices. And the true mastery is all about that, isn't it?
That's going to be immensely valuable to me. I can feel it.
Well, you have been immensely valuable to all of us, because where you are, what you're asking, the way you presented it has produced an understanding that has not been before into all of the universe. That was really good molding.
Thank you. So getting back to the original train was, so here we are, we incarnate, we manifest into form, and we've got some purpose in mind when we do that, right? A path is sort of set out before us, but you can't get off your path.
Your purpose is joy in the broad, general, only thing that matters sense. And you can't get off your path because you can't cease to exist ever. But you can be bogged down by the resistance on your path, or you can be, with clarity, navigating around it joyfully. Have you ever gone on a trip to some place that was open and wide? There was no contour to the land. There was no contour to the road. It was just straight and flat and same, miles and miles of nothing but miles and miles. So you know what that feels. And sometimes that's satisfying. We're not saying that it isn't. But then by comparison, have you ever been on a sweetly, blissfully, winding, curving, interesting road where around every bend there is a new vista, there's something else to see? You have to stay focused because the road requires your attention. And can you feel the satisfaction in there not being a straight line between where you are and where you want to be? In other words, there is interest in the maneuvering, in the managing, in the up and down and over and around and through. There's interest in the developing your skills and getting very good at it and acquiring equipment that handles it better and better. In the big old bus that weighed 60,000 pounds and was 45 feet long with a car behind it and so wide that they squeaked through toll booths with an inch on either side, straight, big, flat roads were really appreciated. But when Esther got in her little Audi R8, she wanted the mountain passes. She wanted to feel what that engine could do. She wanted that engine to have to give her all it had in order to maintain her 80 miles an hour going up a high mountain. In other words, you see what we're getting at? There's such interest in the contrast. If it's not frightening you, if Esther had been on that mountain pass in that bus, there are switchbacks that say, if your vehicle is longer than 26 feet long, don't come down this road. And Esther would say, I hear you and I'm not coming. Because she knew what it was like, what it took to turn that bus. There were some roads, a road in Sedona. She so wanted to go up Oak Creek Canyon with that bus, but she knew better. There were turns that she could not make. But in the Audi, that's the road she wanted to be on. And so what we're saying to you is, as you prepare your equipment, as you gather your equipment, which is your vibrational prowess, and as you manage it and understand it, then you will feel invincible. which is on the opposite end of the stick of fearful. You will feel clarity, which is on the opposite end of the stick of confusion. And in that clarity and in that empowerment and in that knowing, then the whole world is exciting to you. And we promise you, you won't be asking for the contrast to go away, because it isn't your problem. And your ability to navigate through all of it makes your life more interesting, you see. But in the beginning, most don't think that. They think, oh, if my friend would be easier, I would be having a better life. And we say, if you had only conditions around you that were exactly as you want them to be, you would have a boring life. You would have a static life. You would have a life of very little expansion, and your reason for being would be thwarted.
Societally, as we evolve to that place where we're all more happy all of the time and experiencing less contrast or controlling our contrast better, will there be like a slowing down of the momentum of the change that's occurring right now? Is there sort of a fever pitch we're like 5 years away from total ascension or something?
We thought you were going to say annihilation. Because that's what slowing it down feels like to us. No, the contrary is true. It will get faster. Mm-hmm. Faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. Faster and faster and faster, with more and more potential for satisfaction. Because the better you are at it, the more you will enjoy your involvement in it. Yeah. It's only, and we don't mean this about you, it's only an unskilled vibrational navigator that wants it to slow down. The more skilled you are in your vibrational navigation, the more you thrill at the idea of it speeding up. Yeah. And it is speeding up. Yeah. This part that we were talking about between the vibration and the realization of an idea and the manifestation of it is much shorter today than ever before. And that is because the general basis of vibration has raised. And you see, it's a wonderful thing because, we've never said this before either. So you all, as a collective consciousness, are having these experiences, and those like you are deliberately raising your vibrations. And the new ones coming in are already at that high vibration. They are born into this environment at the highest vibration that any of you have ever accomplished. In other words, that's like the starting point. So as they meld in to this already higher vibration that you're all accomplishing, then there is less and less probability of them going to lower and slower vibrations, and since they're already there. And so that is the reason that the vibration of this time-space reality, it is rising, 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 rising. It serves you in two ways. When you're in sync with it, it's delicious. And when you're not, you know it. So you become more willing to accept that good that feels good is good. And that's really what's happening planetarily. That's what this movement is all about. That's the value that this platform has added value to the world in this significant way. More and more people are willing to accept the value of feeling good. And that sounds odd to those like you, but there are a whole lot of people that still believe, not as many of them, that still believe that if it feels good, it probably isn't. And that I should not selfishly serve myself. I should always be in service of others. And so they miss the whole point. They don't get into alignment, so they don't have any batteries in their contraption. And then they're working really hard to make their contraption do something, but their contraption won't do anything because it's not powered, because they haven't taken the time to get into the receptive mode. These are really good times. These are, in fact, the best of times. They're also the worst of times, depending on whether you're in alignment or not.
Mm-hmm. It's nice.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Yes.